Welcome back this Sunday morning, everyone. After a historic first week in former President Trump's criminal hush money trial, week 2 will begin Monday with opening statements and a Sandoval hearing. Federal defense attorney Ronald Chapman is here with more. Mr. Chapman, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Like I mentioned, opening statements set to begin on Monday. What should we expect from this process?
Well, opening statements should be relatively brief. A lot of people think this process may take a couple days. Honestly, if you go more than about 90 minutes, you're probably going to put the jury to sleep. That being said, I'm not sure who's going to deliver it for the Trump side. It's possible they may go a little longer, although I would expect to go pretty short here. Once that is concluded, we're going to see the prosecution's first set of witnesses. And as we know, the prosecution doesn't have to disclose that right now as a result of the judge's order. So it's going to be anybody's guess as to who will begin this case for the prosecution.
In your experience, how much of an impact do these opening statements have on the jurors?
It has a huge impact. It sets the tone for the case. And of course, everybody's going to be leaning forward into this to try to figure out what haven't we heard from the press. A lot of people have heard, information about Michael Cohen and other witnesses in the case. But what new information is Alvin Bragg's team going to present that will actually link some of those major gaps in the case that we've all thought are going to be a problem for him?
Our former president has taken to Truth Social, as he typically does. He said the judge is, quote, railroading him, taking away my constitutional right of free speech. Are gag orders in high-profile cases, especially like this one where the country, some would argue the world, is watching, are these gag orders common, Ronald?
No, they're not common at all. In fact, here's the biggest issue with the gag order against Donald Trump. This is a high-profile case, and there are things being said about Trump every single day. Usually, a defendant would have the ability, or their counsel would have the ability, to respond to those sorts of attacks. And in this case, the gag order has sort of a 1-2 punch. Trump can't speak, and also he has to remain silent while all of this information is being provided. Of course, he's chosen to skirt that line quite well, but we'll see whether he gets slapped with a gag order.
Yeah, speaking of skirting those lines, prosecutors claim Trump has violated the gag order multiple times. I think the number is 7. There is a hearing scheduled this week. So looking ahead, what are the possible penalties for Trump?
I don't think that there's going to be anything in terms of prison time. I think everybody pretty much agrees with the fact that Trump is not going to jail for this. However, there can be major fines, and those fines can escalate significantly as the violations keep getting steeper. Could start with 10,000, then go to 100, and it might even get larger. And as we know from Donald Trump's bond issues, he's going to have trouble paying some pretty big fines if the judge slaps him with him.
Former President Trump has said, quote, I will absolutely testify. He plans on testifying. Of course, we don't know if that will actually happen until the trial starts. Ronald, I have to ask, if he was your client, would you advise him to testify in this case?
Absolutely not. Here's a couple of reasons. First, Donald Trump has kind of a certain way of speaking that is going to be very easy for cross-examination. He blurs a lot of lines. He speaks in generalities. You need to be specific on cross-examination. The second issue are the two prosecution weaknesses in the case. That's going to be Weisselberg and Michael Cohen as well. Those two witnesses are going to be peppered with questions and information about their past, about their prior convictions. Both of them essentially have perjury convictions. You put Donald Trump on the stand and you put his credibility in question, and you allow the prosecutors to recover from the damage they're going to get from those cross-examinations, and it gives them a little bit more room in this trial for a potential victory.
You mentioned Cohen and Daniels, but I'm sure their credibility is going to come into question as well here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, both have been, not Stormy Daniels hasn't been convicted. Weisselberg was convicted, but Michael Cohen, convicted for perjury, millions of dollars in fraud that he was essentially sentenced for. He's made statements to sort of walk back his guilty plea. He wasn't given a cooperation agreement by the prosecution because his prior prosecution, because they assessed him as being a liar. The guy's not credible, and that's why they couldn't move forward on a federal case. Stormy Daniels, her credibility is not going to be an issue here. She received the payment. She made the affidavit. She might try to walk that back. I'm not attacking her if I'm Trump's defense counsel.
All right. Ronald Chapman, really appreciate your insight. We hope you come back.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up.